The rain had just started to glaze the sidewalks when the child stopped walking, his small boots planted in a puddle that reflected the city lights like broken stars, and the man behind him almost collided into his back because he never expected his son to hesitate in a world that always bent out of their way. In that instant, with traffic murmuring and neon signs buzzing in a quiet American downtown, something unseen cracked open. What if this were you, rushing past another life without looking down? What if one pause could unravel everything you thought you knew? The man's name was Michael Harper, a real estate investor who measured days in meetings and nights in numbers, the kind of man whose tailored coat never brushed against brick walls or alley shadows. His son, Noah, was 5, curious in a way money could never buy, still untouched by the rules his father lived by. Michael had learned long ago how to look forward only, how to pass by suffering with practiced blindness. He called it survival. Others might have called it cowardice. The stroller against the wall barely registered to him at first, nor the woman crouched beside it, her shoulders folded inward like she was trying to disappear into the damp brick. The woman looked younger than hardship had allowed her to be. Her name was Sarah Collins, though most people no longer asked. Her blonde hair was pulled back carelessly, eyes hollowed by nights without sleep, knuckles red from cold and shame. A faint bruise shadowed her cheek, not fresh enough to shock, not old enough to forget. The stroller held a worn blanket and a threadbare teddy bear, both damp at the edges, both once chosen with love. Sarah had learned to sit still, to make herself small, because movement invited judgment. She had learned that silence hurt less than hope. Michael kept walking, already irritated by the delay, by the inconvenience of his son's sudden interest in something that had nothing to do with them. He had a dinner reservation. Across town, a life waiting that did not include alleyways or broken dreams. But Noah didn't move. Children see what adults train themselves not to, and Noah saw the woman's eyes lift for a fraction of a second, meeting his with a confusion that flickered into recognition before collapsing into pain. He felt it in his chest before he understood it in his mind, a tug that made him turn his head back toward his father with a seriousness that didn't belong to his age. That was when the world shifted, when the words left Noah's mouth not as a question, but as a truth he somehow carried, pointing not with his finger, but with his whole body, telling his father that the woman by the wall was his mother. The sentence didn't echo loudly, but it thundered inside Michael's skull, tearing through years he had buried under contracts and excuses. He laughed at first, the reflex of denial sharp and ugly, because it was impossible. Sarah was gone. Sarah had left. Sarah had chosen a different life, or so he had told himself for 5 years. The memories came back without mercy. A cramped apartment in Ohio, Sarah standing by the window, pregnant and trembling, asking him if love was enough when rent was late and dreams were thinner every day. Michael remembered choosing ambition over patience, opportunity over commitment, telling himself he would come back when he was stable, when he was successful, when he was ready. He remembered signing papers, shaking hands, and slowly letting months turn into silence. He remembered telling people she disappeared, because it hurt less than admitting he walked away. Sarah had not disappeared. Life had simply broken her piece by piece. When Michael never returned, when calls went unanswered and letters were never sent, she moved where buses were cheap and shelters were full. She worked when she could, slept when she was allowed, and cried when she was alone. Addiction brushed past her but never took her. Violence knocked but never stayed, and through it all she carried the weight of raising a child without a safety net. Losing custody had been the final fracture, the moment when hope fell from her hands and shattered. She stayed near the city courthouse for months, believing proximity might summon mercy. It never did. Now, soaked pavement between them, Michael saw the truth in the lines of her face, in the way Noah's eyes mirrored hers, in the scar near her eyebrow that he once kissed when they were young and fearless. The world didn't stop, but his did. He felt the shame rise like bile, heavy and undeniable. What kind of man becomes rich while the mother of his child sleeps beside trash bins? What kind of success demands that cost? He knelt without realizing it, the concrete biting through his slacks, bringing him down to a level he had avoided for years. Sarah looked at him then, really looked, and whatever recognition sparked was quickly buried under years of learned disappointment. She didn't beg, she didn't accuse. She just watched him the way people watch storms, braced for damage. Michael wanted to explain, to apologize, to rewind time until he was someone braver, but words felt insulting in the face of what she had endured. Noah stepped closer to Sarah, placing his small hand near hers without touching, as if asking permission to exist in her space. That gentle instinct undid Michael more than any accusation could have. Children know where they belong long before adults figure out where they failed. Michael realized then that wealth had insulated him from consequences, but it had not erased them. They were right here, damp and shaking, waiting for him to finally see. Change did not come as a miracle. It came as a decision made in the rain, followed by hundreds of harder decisions afterward. Michael used his resources not as a shield, but as a bridge. He found Sarah medical care, counseling, a safe place to sleep that wasn't temporary. He fought the legal battles he once avoided, not to win but to repair. He sat in waiting rooms and listened to stories that made him uncomfortable. He learned that redemption is slow and fragile, and requires consistency, not grand gestures. Sarah did not forgive quickly. Trust is not a switch you flip back on. But she watched Michael show up again and again, watched him learn how to be present without control, watched him take responsibility without asking for praise. Noah flourished in the quiet way children do when something inside them settles, when confusion gives way to belonging. The three of them did not become a perfect family. They became something better, honest. Years later, Michael would pass alleyways and never look away again. He would remember the night his son stopped walking, the night a beggar on a wet sidewalk reflected his past back at him. He would understand that the measure of a life is not found in balance sheets, but in moments when you choose to turn back. If this story stirred something in you, take a moment to share in the comments what it made you feel or remember. And if this story truly touched your heart, gently reminding you of kindness, regret, or second chances, please consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing so more stories like this can reach those who need them.